a selfish question. I don't know if anybody else cares, but I picked the Broncos. I picked the Denver Broncos. I said they may not be a playoff team, but the idea Vegas has them at 5 wins. Peyton's too good of a coach. They have weapons.
Yep.
There's too many players here I like. They may win 8 or 9. 5 is ridiculous. So far, so good. But I want to talk not just about Peyton, but about the defense. It's mostly the same guys as last year, and they're getting tremendous pressure. What are they doing with the Broncos defense?
Yeah, they are getting tremendous pressure. And Vance Joseph's always been one of the best. He's their D coordinator, one of the best in the league at kind of creating pressure and scheming pressure. And that's what they're doing. They've got a pretty good group as well. I mean, they've got Cooper on one side on the outside. They've got Benito, who came out of Oklahoma, a player I really liked a few years ago as pressure players. They do a really good job with their disguise, how they get to their pressures, their overload concepts. I think their blitz rate is among the highest in the league, and they're really good doing that. So this is a really good defense, and they're getting quality corner play. Obviously, we know about Patrick Surtain, okay? Many think he's the best corner in the league.
Yes, I do.
Riley Moss came out of Iowa, and he's played on the other side this year. And while he's had a few bad moments with some penalties, he's developing into a quality corner. And you can do so much more on defense when you feel good about your corners, and they feel good about their corners.
Yeah, Surtain's an incredible talent. Okay.
So this is actually interesting because the Denver Broncos really don't get much attention, and if they do, it's kind of more centered around Bo Nix, obviously the rookie quarterback, and so he's gonna, and also just being a quarterback in general. We're very quarterback-centric, NFL media, content creation, whatever. So I think it's pretty cool to be able to kind of talk about the defense, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on how legit the Denver Broncos defense has been. As you can see, allowing 15 points per game, 3rd in the NFL. Right, like there's a lot to like. And then even if we just go to PFFs, if we just do like kind of like just overall, and this is obviously, I always feel like I always feel the need to preface this, is that, you know, I never like to just go by 100% pure by the numbers and stats, because there's so much more that you have to kind of investigate. Are you really feasting on bad teams and not playing so good against good teams, yada yada yada? But they're still 3rd right now, right? So far, 3rd best defense in the NFL according to PFF. So that is pretty impressive. But again, this is tough because I wouldn't necessarily say that this is so 100% accurate, because I don't know if we could say that the Detroit Lions have the best defense. Are the Kansas City, Chiefs really below the Philadelphia Eagles? Not necessarily. So it has to be taken with a massive, grain of salt. But still, at the very least, what we at least know from that is that it's still productive, right? It's not bottom, right? There's no way that a team could be bottom defense, bottom 20 and onward, and be like, well, this is misleading. They're actually really up here, right? So at the very least, we know that this defense is clearly formidable. And I think when you have a offensive head coach like a Sean Payton, someone who you obviously think is going to be a great offensive mind, when the defense can really carry their weight and be special and be a top defense in the NFL, oh my God, are you in an absolute amazing, extraordinary place to be in, right? Whether it's because you have the right weapons, whether it's because you have the right DC, whatever it may be, you are in such a fantastic place, because someone like a Sean Payton is going to understand, right? If there's something lacking with the offensive line, the run game, the pass game, the quarterback, whatever, he will be able to pull those strings, and quite frankly, pretty effortlessly, right? He will be able to have the conversations with the powers that be and say, this is what I need. We got to trade. We got to move up. We got to do this. We got to do that. This is what I need. He will be able to flawlessly be able to develop that. Defense, not so much, right? You are so frequently at the mercy when you're on the opposite side of the ball at, again, the coordinators, the GM, whoever it might be in that moment of time. And you usually run into some problems when you have a coach who kind of oversteps, because one of the best things that a coach can do is hire the right people, right? Is get the right people for the job, understanding that is not my expertise, but what I know how to do well is find the people whose expertise it is, or put them in a position where they're empowered to do what they need to do and not step on anyone's toes. So to me, as soon as I see a great defense for a great offensive head coach, I immediately am like, okay, what's going on here? Where can this team go now? Because they're not being carried by just necessarily their offense. And I think especially when you have a young rookie quarterback like Bo Nix. And yes, the Broncos have some weapons, but we can't act like they have the weapons of the Lions or the Eagles or anything like that. So it stands out to me where it's just like, if you can be a defensive led team and you can take the pressure off of your young ascending offense, specifically your young rookie quarterback, that's such an awesome place to be in. It gives the room for him to develop. It gives the room for him to not have to constantly play from behind, constantly win shootouts, right? You don't have to keep asking your quarterback to do more than he needs to in any given moment. And it matters tremendously. Like it really, really does. I mean, any quarterback that would matter, let alone a rookie quarterback. So having a defense like this that's allowing 15 points per game, like I think that's being understated, just how much that helps develop Bo Nix, because there's so much less pressure and there's a less acceleration of what you're asking him to do. You allow his development to be more organic. And in a lot of ways, we're seeing the opposite of that with Caleb Williams for different reasons, not necessarily because of defense, but because he has such high expectations. There's this extra pressure on him to develop and accelerate this process. You don't have that same level with Bo Nix. And again, I don't want to, I want to give the credit to the defense, but at the end of the day, whether or not this team will be special or not, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after, it will come down to Bo Nix and Sean Payton's offense, right? Like, what do they get going? A defense can only take you so far, especially if you're a rookie quarterback or, Bo Nix ends up not being that special, right? Like, then it doesn't matter how good your defense is, you're going to have to figure something out. So the fact of the matter is that, to me, this ends up being such a more full circle effect of not only does it accelerate how good this team can be, but it also, that acceleration makes things easier for your rookie quarterback, allows him to develop in less pressure cooker situations, while organically and naturally, if you can follow what I'm saying, rising the expectations of this team. It's not forced expectations, right? It's just, hey, we're looking pretty good. We're winning these games. We're doing better than Vegas said we're doing, but it's done in a way that's not this pressure cooker. Oh my God, can this pop at any moment? Right? It's just a different feel to it. So it feels significantly more sustainable. It feels less fragile. And honestly, anytime you have a great defense, you're going to be less fragile. I am with Colin. I am very offensively driven, and I'm very much like, if you don't have a good offense, if you don't have a good offensive head coach or coordinator, you're really hurting yourself, right? You are at a deficit here. But the reality is that a great offense, this is why it's so deadly, gives you the ability to pretty much kind of overcome anything, right? If you have a great offense, you got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and some weapons, doesn't matter how bad your defense is, you can find a way to put up some points and you can win some games, obviously, and win some Super Bowls. But if you have a great defense and you can make that your foundation, it's you might not be able to overcome as much if you're so defensively driven, but to me, it makes a more solid foundation, if that makes sense, right? So you might not necessarily be able to overcome as much, but you'll be more resilient, which is what we see with the Kansas City Chiefs this year and last year, right? They were more resilient. They weren't necessarily able to overcome. If their defense got gashed and taken advantage of, they weren't able to overcome because their offense wasn't good enough. In years before that, their defense wasn't as good enough, but their offense was able to overcome. But you can see the level of resiliency and the foundation of that when you have a great defense, and how far it can take you, right? And what you now are asking for your quarterback is they can withstand all these injuries. If they had these same level of injuries, the Kansas City Chiefs now a couple years ago, they don't make it to the Super Bowl. They don't beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. If Tyreek Hill goes, or Travis Kelce goes down, and Pacheco goes down, and Rashee Rice goes down, they don't have that ability. They're not going to win, right? Their defense wouldn't allow it. It wouldn't be sustained enough. So that's what's interesting about this team. It's not the way how I thought this was going to unfold. And I didn't think that this defense was going to be as effective as it is right now. But it's certainly like, okay, this is really interesting. And it starts to make you kind of reevaluate even more, like, what is the trajectory of this team right now? So I'm really, this is going to be a fascinating game. Again, the Broncos versus the Ravens. As you can see, Vegas doesn't think that the Broncos really have much chance at all of this game, giving 9 points. So it will be interesting to see. It's not even so much that I'm looking to see if the Broncos can win this game, or if they lose, it's proof, haha, they're not that good. Going up against Lamar Jackson is going to be very tough, and Derrick Henry, that's a tough matchup for anyone. But I am curious to see, just can they hold their own, right? Do they get blown out? Like, Vegas thinks this will be a blowout, essentially, right? Like, will this be 35-10 or something, right? Similar to almost how the Buccaneers game unfolded before. Buccaneers made like a weird comeback, but like not really. Will it be like that, where it was clearly this team is up here and this team is down here, right? Like, that was as clear as day when you watch that game. Or is it going to be a lot closer? Will Bo Nix be comfortable? Will this defense make Lamar Jackson uncomfortable, right? Like, that's really what I'm excited to see, because this will definitely be, now that Bo Nix and this offense has been humming along and improving, and Bo Nix is obviously being more comfortable, and as a lot of Broncos fans told me just today about him winning offensive rookie of the month, I think it was, or whatever the official title is. And so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like against the Ravens. The Ravens defense has been far from good, so I am really curious to see how this game looks. Do the Broncos look like they belong, or do they look like, hey, we're on the right track, we're improving, we're getting better, but we're not quite there just yet? That's kind of what I'm looking for from this game, and I'm excited for it for sure. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Denver Broncos, and what's making their defense so effective, and how it's been a true foundation for their team, what it means for Bo Nix, what it means for their season and their future? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.